Fred Daring.
Hello, my name is Frank Lugenheim. What do you do?
Well, I belong to CW Inc. It was founded 3 years ago, and it's a 501c3, and I deliver CSW each Thursday night.
And what business are you in?
Well, my background is HR, with a specialization in OE. I got my MSM, which is similar to an MBA, and I did my first career for 26 years with GTE, where I was VP of HR.
What brings you to these meetings?
Well, I heard about this group from someone at TCC, who recommended that I contact a friend at TWC somewhere in the DFW area. So I decided to investigate ASAP.
Wow. Well, since you joined the DFW CCC, have you learned things that's helped your organization?
I think so. The TRC, in conjunction with the IRS and their QC task force, provides IT personnel to UTA and UNT. They in turn provide HMO consultation and actuarial assistance, leaving AT&T wishing they had helped IBM with the SBC merger.
Well, maybe I can be of some help. What is your organization's MO, method of operation?
If I understand your question, I suppose we are similar to one of the biggest in the industry, DBM.
Well, Fred, it was great getting to know you.
Likewise, I hope to see you at our next meeting. I hear the topic is NBC, CBS, ABC going AWOL because of HBO. Well, it was really nice to meet you. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday night.
Well, I can't next month. I'm attending a seminar on effective communication.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Welcome to Career Solutions with David Rawls, your guide to improving the quality of your career. David will share tips for career success, faith-based tips for locating, landing jobs, and succeeding at your work. Join your host, David Rawls, who brings more than 30 years' experience working for GTE and Disney, as he helps you with your career solutions.
Well, hello, welcome again to our next session, session number 7 of the Career Solutions Workshop. It's all about networking tonight. You know, we spent the first 6 weeks going through a lot of basic stuff, and these last 6 are going to be really powerful. If you enjoyed any of the first 6, I can guarantee you're going to enjoy all of the second 6. Networking is an acquired skill. Very few of us do it well without understanding how to do it. But here's the news in this network news presentation. If you don't have a large network, you still have an opportunity to build one, and we're going to talk about that tonight as well. If you aren't good at networking, you can learn how. If you're not outgoing, we can show you how to improve your skill at sticking your hand out, meeting people, connecting with people so that they want to spend more time with you and you're able to spend more time with them. I know that networking is something that many of us wish we did better, and that's what this session is all about tonight. We're here to help you get better at it. Our scriptural foundation for this evening is out of Proverbs 15:22, which reads, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." So we recognize right up front that this is all about getting connected to and being part of a larger group of individuals. And that's really one of our foundations for this evening. Now, one of the things I just realized is, Christian, I do not have the clicker. Tell a story. I don't know if I have any stories. Somebody give me a topic and I'll give you a story. Sorry? At Disney World. Well, I can tell you this much. This isn't particularly a funny story. As a matter of fact, this was really a tragedy for many of us. I was one of about 30 or 35 people back in 1971. This is really going to date me now. Back in 1971, I was one of about 30 to 35 people that left Anaheim, California, where I had worked for several years, and was transferred down to Orlando, Florida, where they were building this thing they called Walt Disney World. Walt had just passed away a few years earlier, and his brother Roy was at the helm of the organization. We went down to Orlando, and we had to hire and train about 3,500 people in 3 months. We had to hire them. Our hiring requirements were this: if they could walk and chew gum, they were hired. No, I take that back. They also had to know how to smile once in a while. And we had 100% turnover the first year. As a matter of fact, you'll find this interesting. In the first 10 years that Disney World was in existence in Orlando, they employed, through hiring and turnover that occurred during those years, those early years, they employed the equivalency of the entire population of the city of Orlando. Which, I mean, a lot of people find amazing. It was several 100,000 people, of course. Now, Disney has almost, just in Orlando, almost 200,000 current employees. We started that operation October 1st, 1971, with just over 3,000 employees. It shows you how much smaller it was, how much they've added since then, compared to the way we opened the operation. It was really a shoestring operation. And while we were there, we worked approximately 14 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for about 4 months. It was a killer schedule. We had no time off except to go home and shower and get a few hours sleep. I think I ended up with, we didn't have direct deposit yet. I had paycheck after paycheck, wasn't getting deposited in the bank. I can start from the top, yeah. Can we restart the clock? Is that possible? Thank you, brother. You want to give me a cue when you're ready? Just say, hey, dude. Well, I can talk about Disney for hours. It was one of those $1 million experiences I wouldn't give a plug nickel to do again. You know, it was a great learning time. I had a lot of fun. It was a great place to work when you were single, not a good place to work if you were married. It was about 80% of the employees were considered seasonal or part-time people, and that's still true today to the best of my knowledge. That's enough for now. Tell me when we're ready, Christian. You want me to start at the very, very top? Okay. Do I have to do it anything like the first time? You know I never make these same presentations the same twice, so. Well, welcome to session number 7, entitled Network News. There is some good news about networking. Number 1, if you don't have a large network, you can still get one. 2, if you aren't good at networking, it's not too late to learn how to get good at it. And if you're not very outgoing, you can still learn how to get connected with people so that they want to stay connected to you, and you'll be able to stay connected to them. If you're tracking down jobs on the internet, if you're using headhunters, if you're out there going to different meetings and getting connected to different individuals, this is the session that ties all of that stuff together. There's a lot to learn. If you got a lot out of the first 6 sessions of this workshop, you're going to get a heap more out of the second half, the sessions 7 through 12. Our scripture foundation for tonight is out of Proverbs 15:22. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. And clearly we're talking about getting advice and counsel from others, and perhaps even from time to time dispensing some advice and counsel ourselves. So let's get started with networking in our session called Network News. Well, oftentimes I have to deal with this right up front, so I decided to put this in the very beginning of this presentation. Why network? There are some people that just don't see what is the big deal about networking and getting connected to others. Aren't all the jobs posted on the job boards? Well, the short answer to that question is no, they aren't. We'll come back to that in a second. But even more importantly are how people are hired. So let's just look at this first visual up here. Somewhere in the neighborhood, if you look at all three of these national studies that were done, there was a study in the first column done at Harvard University by Professor Mark Granovetter. And Professor Mark is no longer at Harvard, he's now over at Stanford University. But at the time he did this study, there were several individuals that assisted him gathering up information about people that were landing jobs. And he found in his study that between networking and the three other manners or methods in which we land jobs, that clearly 3/4 of the participants in that study had landed their jobs as a result of networking. Now let me stop right here a second. There's only 4 ways that we can find work. Everything that we do in our job search falls into one of these 4 categories. The one that most of us are aware of course, are job postings, advertisings, and postings. Now, if you look at these 3 studies here, you see that it's only somewhere between 10 and 14% roughly of the people that are landing jobs, and that's all kinds of jobs, top-level jobs, bottom-level jobs, CEO, entry-level, blue-collar, white-collar, federal jobs, local government jobs, private sector jobs, part-time jobs, full-time jobs, every kind of job you can think of. Only about 10 to 14% of all those jobs are landed as a result of the fact that it was posted somewhere. So one of our reasons to get involved in networking is that's what the numbers tell us. The other 2 studies, the Department of Labor study listed in the center, the Department of Labor study included 10.3 million hired people over a prolonged period of time. And as they gathered this data, what they found is almost 2/3 of those people in that sample landed their jobs as a result of networking. Again, this is entry-level jobs, hourly positions, minimum wage jobs, every bit as much as it is senior executive and C-level executive positions. This is the entire spectrum of jobs. Almost 2/3 of the people in that study. Again, about 2/3 of the people in the Brandywine Consulting study. Brandywine is a consulting firm in Baltimore, Maryland. And basically where they gathered all of their data was a whole bunch of other consulting firms that actually help executives with outplacement work. These are basically headhunters. They're outplacement firms. And what I find really interesting, they're only gathering information from third-party headhunters, and notice that in their study, only 14% roughly of all the people in that study, only 14% of the people that had been using headhunters, every one of these people had been using headhunters or they wouldn't have been in this database. And only 14% of them were getting jobs as a result of using that third-party assistance. These numbers speak volumes to me. But now here's a number that's not even in these statistics, and you're going to want to write this down because I find this mind-blowing. Of all of the people in the top row there, of all the people that landed their jobs through networking, clearly millions and millions of job seekers who landed their jobs in those 3 studies. Almost half of those people that landed their job through networking, 43.8% to be exact, landed their jobs through networking when the jobs were created for them as a result of them meeting a hiring manager. In other words, they came out of the hidden job market. Or to say it a different way, the jobs didn't exist. They weren't posted anywhere. They weren't even in the mind's eye of the hiring manager until the hiring manager, networking face-to-face with a job seeker, found out that that job seeker was a solution to their problem. To me, that's mind-blowing. Almost half the people that are landing their job through networking, the jobs didn't even exist until they got connected to the person who had to make that hiring decision. If that doesn't give us enough reasons why we ought to be networking, let me lay this one on you. Clearly, the majority of the best jobs are found through networking. The best jobs seldom have to be posted. Not all the jobs are posted. We know that less than 1/4 of all jobs that are ever filled are posted anywhere. And again, only about half of those that are posted are filled as a result of being posted. But clearly only about 25% of all jobs are being posted. Some companies don't have to post jobs. There are some employers that are so popular Before we started the session tonight, I was mentioning the employer Disney, where I used to work. There are employers around the country. We can mention some great brand names: the Container Store, Southwest Airlines, Deloitte, just to name a few big brand name national firms. They don't have to post jobs. They do, but they don't have to. They get so many unsolicited candidates, so many great employee referrals from their employees that they really need not post many of their positions at all. They don't have to do that. The best jobs are filled through other means other than posting, and that often is through networking, which is, and one method of that, of course, comes through employee referrals. Now, there was an atheist walking through the woods one day. He was admiring all that God had created: the beautiful trees, the animals that he saw in the forest, the river running alongside with the water gurgling as it ran downstream, the birds chirping. Oh, it was just the sounds, the sights, the smells. Everything was wonderful. As he heard rustling in the bushes behind him and he turned to look, there was a giant grizzly bear coming out of a hedgerow and began to charge him. Well, the atheist turned around and he started to run. That's the first thing you're not supposed to do when a bear comes at you. Well, he ran as fast as he could, and he was running faster and faster, and as he looked over his shoulder, the bear was gaining on him. So he ran even faster, and as he tried to run faster, he tripped over a log and fell to the ground. As he turned over to get up, he looked up, and this giant grizzly had his paw raised, ready to strike him. The atheist yelled, "Oh my God!" Time stopped. All the sounds of the forest went silent. The river stopped running. The wind stopped blowing. A giant, beautiful, bright light shone from all around. And we hear this voice. You deny my existence all of these years and teach others that I don't exist. You even credit creation to some cosmic event. Do you expect me to count you as a believer now? The atheist did his very best to look into the bright light, and he said, it would be a little hypocritical to ask to be a Christian now, but perhaps you could make the bear a Christian. Very well, said the voice. The bright light went out. The river began to run. The trees began to blow in the breeze again. The bear dropped to his knees, put his paws together, and said, "Lord, thank you for this meal I'm about to receive." Now, if you're still an unbeliever concerning networking, how about this? The Lord tells us in Galatians 6 verses 7 and 10, do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Over in Hebrews 10, 24, 25, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not stop meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as we see the day approaching. And then finally, over in Proverbs 22:7, let another praise you and not your own mouth, someone else and not your own lips. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to be doing for others first. That's a good networking tenet. A second one is we need to encourage other people. And thirdly, we need to help promote others, and they'll promote us. Zig Ziglar once said many, many years ago, if you help enough people, you will never need for anything. This is all about the principle of sowing and reaping. You don't have to be a believer to know that this principle works. If you stick an apple seed in the ground, an apple tree grows, and if you're fortunate and the tree's taken care of, it will bear fruit, a lot of apples. You can't go out and pick apples and then plant the tree. Although there are many job seekers out there that are out there trying to get help under the assumption that if somebody helps them, they might turn around and help them sometime. It doesn't work that way. It's against God's law of nature. Well, here's another reason to perhaps network. There's the multiplier effect. I mean, some of you are perhaps old enough to remember that old commercial. It was a hair care commercial for ladies, and it went something like this. If you tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on and so on, the whole idea there was this whole multiplication. Do you know if you tell three people that you need help in your job search, and you tell them the right way, and we're going to be getting to the right way here shortly, you tell them the right way, they can go out and tell three of their friends, and they can go out and tell three of their friends, and so on. And you know, if you just tell three people who just tell three people who just tell three people who just tell three people, you now have 120 people that are working out there on your behalf. And all you had to do was effectively talk with three people. Well, the second one is this obligatory phenomenon. This is a matter of when you connect with people and those people try and refer you to someone else. If I'm connecting with Mark and Mark's connecting with me, and I suggest to Mark that he go over and meets with Joe Blow, and I talk to Joe and I say, I would really like you to meet with Mark. Joe is going to meet with Mark not because of Mark. He's going to meet with Mark because of his relationship with me. There's an obligation in the relationship that we have. So in networking, if you can get people that you connect with to make referrals for you, those people that you're getting referred to will meet with you because of this obligatory phenomenon. 9 times out of 10. And then, of course, the last word here is relationship maintenance. God has hardwired each and every one of us, although sometimes I think the wiring gets frayed, but most of us are made to be connected with other people. Every once in a while, we meet that person, you know, we think the ideal job for them is to be out in 500,000 square miles of forest as a forest ranger, where the only people they come in contact with are bears and squirrels and chipmunks. They just don't do well around other people. But those are rare individuals. Most of us are hardwired, and we need relationships. We need good relationships. We need strong relationships. And many of us will meet with other people because of that hardwired need to be relating with other individuals. So I've given you a lot of reasons why we need to be networking, especially at a time like a job search. Now, it's a life skill. It's something we need to learn to do to be successful in all our endeavors. Some of us have struggled in our careers because we weren't networking well when we were employed. I don't want to give anybody the idea that you need to learn how to be a good networker just so you can find your next gig. You need to learn how to be a good networker so you can find that gig and succeed in it, and succeed in all the other activities that we find ourselves involved in. So what is this thing called networking? Well, notice right in the middle of this word networking is the 4-letter word. I did a radio program on my radio show one time. I said, networking is a 4-letter word. W-O-R-K. It's not called net coffee breaking. It's not net lunching or net dining. This is hard work to do it right. Now, it's not sweaty kind of work. It's not laborious kind of work in the sense of some of the hard labor sweat jobs that I had as a young man while I was in college. But it clearly is work, and it demands a certain amount of purpose and discipline on a daily basis. According to Webster, a network is a system of isolated entities working in coordination. Well, let's apply that now to a group of people, perhaps. Networking is the act or action of personally contacting others for the purpose of furthering an objective. You might want to write that down. I don't have a slide on it. It's the act or action of personally contacting others for the purpose of furthering an objective. There's 3 parts to that. 1, it's an act. It's action-oriented. You have to do something. It is not a passive activity. 2, it involves personal contact, connecting with others. And then 3, for the purposes of accomplishing an objective. Objectives are present. So it's action-oriented. That's part of the work. It involves contacting others. That's part of the work. And it involves satisfying some objectives and explaining those objectives to others. That's part of the work. But once we get kind of a sense of that sort of Webster definition of networking, I want to give you Dave's definition, the simple definition. This is the easiest way I can make this. Now, you can read the words on the slide, but I want you to get what I'm saying. I want you to get the principle here. This is about connecting with people that you know so that they can refer you and help you get connected to people that you don't know, so that they can then refer you to more people that you don't know, so that they can then connect you to people that you don't know, and so on and so on. And you might have to go through 4, 5, 6 levels of connections with every one of your first connections before you begin to find people that can actually help you in your objective right now, which is finding your next career gig. Connecting with people so that you can connect. Well, why would I connect with person A so I can get referred to person B they're going to refer me to person C? It seems a little bit fruitless. I don't know how else to say this. You can't, maybe it's person G that has your next job. It's the perfect job. It's the job you've been wanting all of your life. It's in the right location, has the right amount of money, requires all the gifts that you bring, it ignores all of your shortcomings. It's got the perfect boss, the perfect pay, the perfect everything. You can't get to G without going through person A, B, C, D, and so on. It's impossible. And everybody's looking for the shortcut. And the shortcut is not on LinkedIn. We'll be talking about that in a few minutes. It's connecting with people so you can connect with more people. You may end up connecting with hundreds of people before you find your next gig. And I know that's frightening to some people. Let me share it with you. If you're only planning on connecting with 5 or 6 people until you find your next job, some of you are going to be working, looking for a job for months or years. Or you're going to be taking one of those lesser jobs, those jobs that have to be posted because there's nobody clamoring at the doors to get them. And then you don't get paid enough, you're working the wrong shift, you're driving to the wrong part of town, you got a boss that's not particularly good, a company that doesn't have great policies, and you wonder why your brother-in-law or that neighbor of yours always finds these great jobs and you always get saddled with these ne'er-do-wells. It's what you're doing to find them. Networking. It's where all the good jobs are. And one of the neat things about networking, when you get referred to somebody who's got a job and you're the perfect fit, in so many cases, well over half of the cases, there's never any competition. You're not interviewing along with a whole bunch of other people. It's just you. You're the only candidate. I have a story to share about that in a little bit. The essence of networking, here's another way to kind of describe what it is. If I thought of one synonym for networking, I would say relationships. This is not about using people. This is not about getting what you can get from the people that can give you something, and those that can't, you just move on to somebody else. Wrong motivation, wrong thinking, wrong activity. This is about building relationships with people. Zig Ziglar, back to his quote, if you help enough people, you will never want for anything. How many people have you helped this week, this month, this year? I mean really helped. I mean really gone out of your way to help. Networking is about making regular connections. Some of my best networking connections, and by best I mean these are my A people. These are my closest connections. These are the people that I'm trying to help all the time. And the neat thing about it is the more I try and help them, the more they try and help me. We're in contact regularly, once a month at the very least. Some of our contacts are in face-to-face. Some of them are over the telephone. One of my dearest friends who only lives about 20 miles from my home, we used to get together much more regularly, but our jobs, our work now keeps us apart. We only physically see each other 2 or 3 times a year, but we're on the phone to each other every single month. He may call me from Chicago. He may call me from Singapore between flights because he's traveling all over the world, but he'll call me. Our conversations don't have to be long. Call Dave, I just called to check, see if you have anything I need to pray for you about. You need anything? When are we going to have a sandwich again? Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. Well, he's been connecting with me every month like that for 20 years. One of my oldest and dearest friends that I used to work with at Disney, when I was a young man over 40 years ago, we've now known each other for 45 years. We're in constant, regular contact. We haven't lived in the same state for the last 25 years. I see him every year or two, and we're on the phone at least 4 or 5 times in the year, and then we're sending emails and all. We're staying connected. We're keeping the relationship. So I gave the opening prayer at his wedding reception. He was just remarried after being single for many, many years. He was remarried out on the West Coast, and I went out there to participate in that wedding. Dave, I'm so glad you came. Hey, Steve, I would go, if your wedding was in Singapore, I'd go there. And I don't even like Singapore. The whole point is, it's about making regular connections, helping others, sharing with others, seeking information and advice. I want you to circle this, underline it. When you get home, get a highlighter out. If there's an essence to this whole notion of building relationships, it's about seeking information and advice. Networking is not contacting people because you need them to do something for you. Will you contact them if you need something? Yes. But if the only time you contact people is when you need something, they will stop answering the phone. They will stop returning messages. I'll guarantee it. You'll become known as the needy person. Well, he must be out of work again. I haven't heard from him for 4 years, but I only hear from him when he's lost his job. I got a half a dozen people in my life like that. It's the only time I hear from them. I've known them for 25 years. I know when they're out of work. I get a phone call. Years go by. I don't so much as get a thank you after I help them land a job. Don't even get an email, let alone a thank you card, but they're always willing to call and ask for help when they need help. That doesn't go very far. There's 2 views on networking. One of them is this whole notion of tactical networking. This is when we have immediate objectives. Find a job. Maybe we've had a plumbing problem at work and we need to get a plumber, and we haven't had a plumber out for years. We don't know who to call. Well, you got 2 choices. As I see it, you can go to the yellow pages and find one of a million who are willing to spend money on getting a listing in the phone book, or you can talk to people that might have used a plumber and might have a good, strong recommendation. I always choose to use the latter of those 2 methods. That's my tactical networking at best. Now, tactical networking works best if you've first been a strategic networker. Those are the people that keep relationships year after year. I mentioned Patrick, who lives not far from here. Well, he's been connecting with me, reaches out to me every month. If Patrick, and I've used this statement many times, but I think it illustrates clearly the kind of relationship that we have and the way he is sown into my life. If he were to call in the middle of this production right now, and said, Dave, I've just lost my wife in an automobile accident. Would you come? I'd have Mark or Steve or Dave or somebody else get up here and finish the session tonight because I would leave. We would reschedule it. We would do something. That's how much this man means to me. That's how much he has sown into my life. Are you sowing into lives like Steve is sowing into lives? He doesn't even have to ask for help. All he's got to do is tell me what the issue is. I'm there. I'm there. He'd never have to ask me to come. Strategic networking is the ability to offer help. It's the ability to do for them long before you ever have to ask them to do for you. If you know they're facing issues, it's helping them find solutions to their issues. Now, what are the elements of good networking planning? You got to have good targets. We talked about that. a couple of weeks ago. You got to have good targets in companies and industries, that kind of thing. You're working on that. You've got to have good research. You got to know about these companies, about these industries. You've got to be able to explain this to people that can conceivably help you. You've got to be able to do good prioritization and have some good analyzation skills, because you don't want to send people out just going hither and yon and everywhere. You don't want them referring you to things and places that are really not relevant to you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but to be a good networker, you have to have some priorities in terms of what's important in this tactical search that you have, this job search that you have. You need to be answering those questions that we've posed over the last several weeks before anybody out there in your networking world can begin to help you. If you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, how are they going to help you find work? You want them to guess what you ought to be doing? By the way, that wastes a lot of your time and theirs. So you need to be deciding on your target companies. You need to be deciding on the kind of job that you want and being able to very specifically and clearly articulate that. And then networking connections can assist you greatly. Now, this whole notion of social media, let's talk about this. I love to pose this question. Social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, we're hearing a lot about it. It's in the newspapers every week. It's on Fox News. It's here, there, and everywhere. And I want to know whether social media, and I ask this rhetorically, is it beneficial to us in our world, or is it a real bane? Is it helpful, or does it hinder us? So many times these tools that are out there are here today and gone tomorrow. Some of the biggest social media sites of just 8, 9 years ago are gone. They don't even exist. I think much of the positive hype that's written about social media is written by the people that own these companies or own the majority of the shares of stock of these companies. And in many cases, they're trying to create demand before the demand even exists. Talk about that in a second. LinkedIn is one of those that is often talked about for professionals for purposes of our careers and professional management. Perhaps not as much as Facebook and Twitter, which tends to be more of a personal kind of thing. Those are more short communication devices, oftentimes putting a lot of personal information out there. But clearly, LinkedIn has been identified, at least at this point in time, as the social media site where professionals can gather together, gather information, and learn how to connect with each other. And we're advising professionals, employed or not, to create a good profile on LinkedIn for purposes of connecting and being connected to other individuals. Well, is LinkedIn a network? Well, yeah, kinda, sorta. It's a network like your address book. It's a network like Outlook. It's a network like your phone list. It's a network like your professional association if you belong to one of those, or maybe your neighborhood association. It's a network, but is it networking? No, it's not networking at all. I kind of like in LinkedIn. And I know there are people associated with LinkedIn that don't like my description of it because it's not real jazzy, it's not real hip. But I liken LinkedIn to an electronic Rolodex. I think that's all it is, with a few bells and whistles added. But it's a very, very useful tool. I don't want to demean it. I don't want to diminish it. What I want to do is put it in the right perspective. There are people that think that if they get a wonderful looking LinkedIn profile, that all of a sudden employers are going to start knocking their door down to get to them. Not likely. Could happen, but not likely. And some of those employers that might be trying to knock your door down are some of the same employers that you may not want to be working for. Let's look at some of these LinkedIn facts. One of the things that bothers me about a lot of the hype that's been going on, I'm going to introduce Terry in just a minute, and he's going to give you some much better details about this, but they sort of underinform you or misinform you with statistics. Always has bothered me. I think I've shared this with you before. I read somewhere that 43.7% of all statistics are made up on the spot. And I think a good number of those have been made up by the CEOs of Facebook, LinkedIn, and others. And I'll go on record as saying that. Here's what they do. They do these surveys, and then they don't report the questions when they display the data. They don't report the questions the same way that they were asked of the respondents. First off, you have to recognize that all the people in their survey are LinkedIn people, and not all recruiters are on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, it's my view of all the recruiters I've talked to that less than half of them have a LinkedIn profile or a LinkedIn presence. But of those that do, they then ask them, do you have plans in the next 12 months to use social media to fill any of your jobs? And I've talked to recruiters that have answered yes to the survey. Yes, I do plan to use LinkedIn to fill one of my jobs. Now, I'm going to be filling 750 jobs this year, and I might use LinkedIn to fill 3 of them. And that's why I'm sharing these interesting statements. One of the surveys that was reported said approximately 50% of employers use social media to source candidates. What they leave out is sometimes. Not all the time. Without the sometimes, it implies that they're always finding half the employers are finding all their candidates through social media. Blatantly false. Not even close to being true. Approximately 95% of executive recruiters use LinkedIn. Sometimes. Every once in a while. Oh, now and again. I'm planning to. Approximately 75% of employers have rejected someone due to their online information. Sometimes. That isn't, they're just taking a truth and they're extending it even beyond reason, in my view. And again, it's many times it's those associated with these social media organizations that are trying to create demand where it doesn't even exist yet, because it boosts their stock price and their own personal fortunes. They're feathering their own nests. Now, what is LinkedIn? Well, it's a great networking and contact management system. It's the best I've seen. There are hundreds of millions of people on LinkedIn around the world. I think I read somewhere, as a matter of fact, I think it was something that Terry told me some time ago, there are 2 people that are joining LinkedIn every minute. I mean, think about that. Around the clock, around the world. It's also a great way to connect with people that you don't know but want to get to know. If they're on there, there's a way to connect with them. So it is a great tool. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, to get one and get one right away. And to help you understand what goes into a LinkedIn profile, I'm going to ask Terry Sullivan to come up here. Terry is a graduate of our Career Solutions workshop over 3 years ago. Terry went through this workshop. He was in job search at the time, just as you are. He ended up hanging up his own shingle. He started a company, founded a company, which he is the CEO of, called BuzzPro.com, and he now helps people. He helps marketing and marketing directors and marketing executives and small business owners and individuals. He helps them basically complete their social media presence. He helps them brand themselves and get a presence out there in the social media world, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or all of the above. So with a little more to say about a good friend and a man who probably can explain this better than anybody I've heard explain it, I want to introduce Terry Sullivan. Would you welcome Terry, please?
Okay.
Here's your clicker and your first slide.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm absolutely honored to give a presentation on LinkedIn today, this evening, and I'm going to have a lot of fun. Thank you very much. So as David said, LinkedIn is growing exponentially. It started in May 5th of 2003, and you can see the statistics here. It's just growing leaps and bounds. As a matter of fact, David almost got it right. That statistic is every second there are 2 new LinkedIn users. So when you think about that, click, click, there's 2 new users. And when you think about the population of the United States, for example, being just over 300 million, and there's over now 260 million users on LinkedIn as of February of this year, that's just amazing. So if you have anything to do with business, looking for a job, you want to work in the business world, as David said, LinkedIn is a great place to meet people, to find people, to research companies, to find out more about your passion through others. But it's only the beginning. As David will tell you time and time again, it's a great place to meet people, but as soon as you can, you want to take your online discussion that you're having on LinkedIn offline. So in terms of your LinkedIn profile, it's all about return on investment. All right, that's for those of you in finance, that means that you're going to put some effort into your LinkedIn profile. You're going to spend a lot of time. When I work with my clients, I spend a minimum of 5 hours, and I'm really quick with LinkedIn. So that just is a little hint that you need to start putting a lot of time into your LinkedIn, as well as your other job-seeking efforts, to make LinkedIn reflect your brand. Make LinkedIn or allow LinkedIn to show your audience how you can help them and what differentiates you from other professionals who are looking for a similar job that you're looking for. But if you click on the upper left-hand corner of your LinkedIn profile on the Home tab, go over to the right, this is a little hyperlink here. You can see 19, your profile has been viewed 19 times in the last day. So please write this down, but you want to actually set yourself a goal. You want 5 people looking at your profile on a daily basis. Okay, if you're not getting 5 people finding you and opening up your profile, then you have to modify your branding headline, which I'm going to talk about here in just a second. So how do you know if you are at a baseline with your LinkedIn? Well, about a year ago or so, LinkedIn used to tell you that you're 70% complete, 80% complete. Now they've given you a name and given various terms for your percentage of completion. And if you're at 100%, as you can tell here by this diagram, you become an all-star. So write that down. You definitely want to become an all-star with LinkedIn, and they'll actually walk you through it step by step, what you need to do. But all the principles that I'm going to talk to you about going forward, all the branding strategies that I'm going to talk to you about in LinkedIn, don't necessarily work unless you're at the baseline of being an all-star. And I'll kind of go over that additionally. And by the way, when you become an all-star, you can see that LinkedIn has a lot of integration with the other social media platforms. So you're actually able to post it out and tweet it out, the fact that you've become an all-star. So you're going to see more and more integration between the social media platforms that will allow you to communicate with all social media platforms. So what's a brand? So a brand is what you want people to know about you. You know, it's your unique selling proposition. You know, I kind of look like a marketing guy. I'm wearing a suit, what have you. I will tell you that David Rawls, I just love his definition of a marketing person, of me. He said, Terry, marketing is where, for you, is where the rubber meets the air. So I always thought that was very funny, but at any rate, marketing for me is all about the 4 Ps. But for you, it's what do you want your audiences to know about you? How can you help that company that you want to work for? You know, what differentiates you from others in your field? So it's the way you look. Your brand is the way you look. It's the way you talk. It's the way you act. But more importantly, it's what's up here, right? It's the way you think. And what I learned in Career Solutions is that if you spend your time worrying about why you were laid off from a job or why you were terminated from a job, that's going to be reflected in your brand when you talk over the phone or when you talk to people face to face. So the point I want to make here is that your LinkedIn brand is truly the way you talk, the way you act, etc. But it's more importantly the way you think. So start thinking really positively and look forward. Your online brand is very similar. your online brand is what you want people to know about you and about your unique selling proposition, about your brand. And what I want to say here is you want to make sure that your brand is consistent. And I know many of you are on Facebook, many of you are on Twitter and Pinterest, etc. But you want to make sure that your brand is consistent. If, for example, you are a financial manager, and that reflects that is reflected in your brand on LinkedIn, you want to make sure that in your Twitter and in your Facebook accounts, etc., that you're not doing anything to damage your online brand. So because once something gets online, it does not go away. So you cannot be horsing around in Facebook. I will tell you that many employers do go out to some of the other social media platforms to see if there's any kind of brand conflict, and if they find something, they go on to the next candidate. So make sure your brand is consistent from platform to platform. So this is David's branding. This is a profile box. And you'll see the various sections of David's profile box here, but you can see it has a photo. It has his name. You can have an advanced designation after his name. Right underneath your name is a branding headline, and that's 120 characters that you have to basically brand yourself, and I'm going to talk a lot more about that. And then you have location, what your industry is, as well as your last 3 jobs or positions, etc. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see 500 plus. So let me just say that if you have your email address or your phone number anywhere in this top profile box and you reach out to LinkedIn for tech support for help, they will terminate your account. They will freeze your account. It's against their bylaws. So do not put any contact information in this top profile box. I'll show you where you can put it in 3 unique places and not get in trouble. But and the other thing I want to say is you see this 500 plus in the bottom right-hand corner. David's talking all about networking and meeting people where you have a mutual understanding and you're both trying to help each other. As you meet people, make sure you reach out on LinkedIn and connect with them on LinkedIn. And you want to get this number, this 500 plus, you want to get this number you want to have at least 500 connects in LinkedIn. Any less than that, LinkedIn really doesn't work with that well for advanced keyword searches. And also from a branding perspective, if you have 52 people that you're connected with, it says, I'm not really that active with my networking, with my LinkedIn profile. But once you get above 500, right, whether you have 501 or 1,001, you still get that wonderful branding effect of 500 plus. So write that down. You want 501 or more contacts. And basically, as you meet people and you get business cards, reach out and connect with them on LinkedIn. I always get the question, Terry, what should be included in my profile? Well, I worked with a CEO last week who had a picture of herself when she was in college, and she was about my age, just over 30. No, I'm just kidding. But at any rate, you want to make sure that your picture is current. Okay, that's very, very important. You want to relax in your photo. We all have digital cameras in our pocket. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It just needs to look professional. So if you want to use your own digital camera, you can do that. And have someone take your picture that you're very comfortable with. That always helps. And then the last thing I want to say is you want to wear in your profile photo what you would wear in an interview. So for example, if you're a finance manager, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to be too casual. You probably want to go into your interview with a formal suit on, of some type, and that is the attire you would want to wear in that photo. And then the very last thing I'll say about the photos, if you go out to my profile or Dave's profile photo, you'll see that we have solid color, light colored backgrounds, and there's a reason for that. And that's because you want people focusing on your big smile, and you want to almost kind of reach out and grab them via your photo. And if you have something in the background, that's going to definitely distract your audiences. And it also, many of your photos are going to be the size of your little finger, and they're not going to see any detail at all if you have things in the background. All right? And then here we have Maureen Walkinshaw. As I mentioned, no phone numbers, no email addresses, no contact information in your profile box. You want to make sure that it's very clean. You can have an advanced designation after your name, but that's it. And then give prospects a reason to connect with you. As I mentioned, this is your branding headline, and it's 120 characters. And Here's an opportunity for you to tell your audiences exactly how you can help them, whether that be a prospective employer or if you're in business for yourself, a prospective client. All right, and so the other thing I want to say is here's just some examples, right, of a couple of profiles. And you can see Camilla, she's an instructional design analyst creating corporate training solutions for the medical industry. So does she pass the test? Does she show us how she can help us in her branding headline? Well, yes. She tells you what she does. She's an instructional design analyst. She's in training, and she even gives you the vertical that she works in, the medical industry. And then also, we have what I call an ask, A-S-K, at the very end. And that is, I like to let my audiences know what I'm trying to accomplish with my connection with them. So for example, one of my recruiters that I work with, one of their top words that they use for LinkedIn searches is the word called seeking, S-E-E-K-I-N-G, because they're looking for people who are seeking an opportunity. Because they want to talk to people who are unemployed because they're looking for a job and they're going to be around when they call them. The other thing you'll see here is this little term called LION, and that stands for LinkedIn Open Networker. And that means you will connect with just about anybody. And let me just say, you do not want to become a lion. Come up with your own strategy on the types of professionals you will connect with or you want to connect with on LinkedIn. Myself, I've cast a very wide net with my marketing, and so I connect with pretty much anybody who has a legitimate profile. There are others, like Jim Fernak, who takes more of a conservative approach, and I really appreciate that. But he wants to meet people. He wants to shake hands. He wants a business card to make sure they're a legitimate person. He's already started that networking relationship before he connects with them on LinkedIn. You come up with your own strategy in terms of who you connect with, but make sure you have a strategy. Rick DuPont, he's a brand ambassador and promotional product specialist helping you get customers. That is his front part of his branding headline. So he's a brand ambassador. He sells advertising specialty imprinted products. So he tells you right up front how he can help you. He wants you to help you get new customers. And then also his ask is, let's find you the perfect product. He's got a job, he's in sales, and that's his ask. So he's done a pretty good job with that. So in terms of how you do that, what I would suggest you do is spend 5 minutes. Grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and when your head is kind of cleared, don't take more than 5 minutes and write down every word you can think of about you, what you want people to know about you. And there are no wrong words. You can use adjectives, nouns, pronouns. You can use the same word over and over again if you want. I just don't care. It's really what you want to be known for. Write down some words in the span of 5 minutes and then stop and walk away and come back and take a look at them. And these are some of the words that I came up with. I originally came up with over 100 words, but these are just some of the top words that represented my brand. But you can see, creative, detail-oriented, those that are highlighted, idea generator, marketing expert. So I wanted to be known for those terms, and that's what I used as a basis to create my branding headline. So this is going to be one of the hardest parts about what I'm going to be talking about. But it's very important that you learn how to use LinkedIn as a tool to find people. And again, once you find people and connect with them, you want to take your online discussion offline. And that's where David will give you a lot more advice on how to network and develop a very solid networking relationship. But LinkedIn is just a great place to meet people. But to do that, you have to find them. And a way you can research that is by doing an advanced keyword search in LinkedIn. So write that down. It's called an advanced keyword search. And there's only 4 steps. One is you want to click on the advanced search tab, which is that link right next to that field at the very top center of your LinkedIn, of any page in your LinkedIn profile. Secondly, you want to remember we came up with those 10, 20 terms that I talked about. Start grabbing some of those terms. And if they're multiple word terms, you want to put them in quotation marks to turn that into a unique term. And what I mean by that is, for example, I've got marketing director here. If I didn't have marketing director in quotation marks, I would have hundreds and hundreds of profiles that would show up in my results that had the word marketing or the word director.
Bye.